Hi guys, RP Gamer here and welcome to another RP Ramblings. And today, kind of inspired by DBJ's video on variable initiatives, I'm going to be talking about initiatives and, well, just initiatives. So, if you don't know what an initiative is, and I suppose you should, my definition of initiatives and what they're for is it's when you roll to determine the order that the characters participate in the scene act in, whether that's in combat, which it's most commonly used in, or you could use it in any other scene which requires precise knowing of, well, where it matters, like the order the people are acting in, such as a chase scene or maybe just a scene of tension. Now, usually initiative, well, most common way of doing initiative I see is, and I use myself, is this, what I would call static initiative, where you roll at the beginning of the scene and that's your initiative value for the rest of that scene. It doesn't change. Now that's useful because it means that people can just get on with, people can plan for where their turn in the order is. You don't need to keep checking with people at where whose turn is when, and also you can plan beforehand. You could roll the enemy creatures initiatives beforehand if you're the GM and just slot the players in wherever they roll. You could have the players roll at the start of the session, just make a number of rolls, and then for each encounter just pick a number and slot them in there. Now the downside of it, which I find a lot, is it can get a bit stale, get a bit boring if when you know who's going to fight, who's going to go when. It kind of makes it a lot easier for you to preempt attacks or other actions. Another downside is, say your party, all the PCs roll really great on the initiative and they all go before the enemy even has a chance to think, because usually don't really have the enemy speaking that much until it's their turn, or even doing anything. And you could theoretically have the enemy dead before they've even took a breath, but everyone's initiative was before it. I mean, that could happen in any form of initiative you want to roll, but it's quite often. So, but for the most part, static initiative is what's used by a lot of people, and it also means a GM can group together the enemies, the antagonists, to make it easier for them. Another form of initiative is what DBJ was talking about and that's what he calls variable initiatives. Now, they're not a new concept. He hasn't just came up with a concept to make a video on. They were around in the older versions of D&D. I remember my first experience of D&D was with Advanced Dungeons and Dragons, and we used my DM used variable initiative. What the difference between variable and static is, instead of rolling at the beginning of the scene and then you just go with your order, you roll at the opening of every round. You roll initiative at the opening of every round, and that's when you go. I mean, it is a lot more time consuming. That's the big downside. It can break up the flow of combat. It can break up the immersion of it. But it also means that it's a lot more, as the name says, it's a lot more variable. It's a lot more unpredictable as to when characters are going to act. Now my DM, I mean, he was much older than me. He was a bit old school with his DMing, because he made us decide what we were going to be doing, our actions, before we'd even rolled initiative. And we were pretty much set with those actions. In fact, if you wanted to change your action, he added it to your initiative, so you went further down the list, further down if you wanted to change your action. Now, I'm not too familiar with Dungeons and Dragons of any edition, so I don't know whether that was in Advanced Dungeons and Dragons rule set or whether that was just the way he did it. So, which is why I use static, because I don't like that method. I don't like the method he used of making us choose what we were doing before we'd even know where we were moving. I mean, it makes sense because you don't know how fast the other person is when you get into a fight. You don't know how competent they are, so I suppose it makes sense from that regard, but it was a bit tricky and a bit annoying to not be able to plan, to not be able to have a bit of strategy involved. So that's why I prefer fixed initiatives than variable. Now, these two that I talk about, the fixed initiatives and variable, are meaning in the sense of rolling for your initiatives. You roll the dice and add your speed or your dexterity to it, or just an initiative bonus to it, and then that's where you go in the order, whether you count upwards through the order 1, 2, 3, or down from the highest initiative to the lowest. I don't know what system you use, but you've also got systems which don't use dice, which use the speed or the dexterity stat to decide where you go in initiative order. And Pokemon uses that form. The Pokemon Tabletop United system I use for my games, like that, you use your speed stat as your initiative, and that is where you go. It makes it so much easier for a GM because they can set up initiatives before the session. I can set up everyone's initiative before the session's even started, so we're not taking time to work it out. And that's a case of fixed initiative. You go where you sit until the end, until the character's killed and they took out the initiative, and you move up the initiative. But it can be variable, and it is variable quite a bit in the Pokemon system, at least, because a lot of Pokemon have stat reducing moves. Their moves, if rolled lucky, do more. Come this way, dog. Do more. Sorry, I lost my train of thought. The stat reducing moves take away a stage of their speed stat, so the speed goes down, which means that in the middle of battle they could get shoved down the order, or maybe they do a move that speeds them up, so they go up the order dynamically right in the middle of combat, right then and there. I mean, the age system, I believe it's the age system, has a dynamic where you can move to the top of the initiative order when you do a stunt. One of the stunts allows you to move to the top of the initiative order, so there's many different ways to change the initiative order dynamically without it having to be variable. So I personally prefer fixed initiatives. I love fixed initiatives because it means I can plan combats out so much easier. I can have it all set up ready to go. I can just stay in a battle and just inform the first person in the initiative order that they're going. In fact, I don't even have to tell my battle started if the enemy's first in the order. I can just have the enemy lunge at them or some form of attack. So that's my preferred method. I mean, I'd love to hear whether you prefer fixed or rolling for initiative, or using a static stat, or a dynamic variable stat like in Pokemon. And before I ramble a bit too much, I'll end it for today, and I will see you all next time. Bye.